What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Pulse. Today, we embark on a journey of self-discovery and resilience as we confront the topic of facing your fears. Fear is a universal emotion that can both paralyze and propel us. In this episode, we'll share insights, personal stories, and strategies for overcoming fears. This is not just about acknowledging fear, but about taking bold steps to conquer it, to embrace the discomfort, and to emerge on the other side stronger and more resilient. Whether you're grappling with a fear that's held you back for years or you're just curious about the psychology of facing challenges head on, this episode is your companion on the path to personal growth. Get ready to face your fears right here on The Pulse. Let's begin. Would someone like to share a story?
I guess I could share the first time that it snowed this winter. Last winter, I didn't really drive much because I I just gotten my N, and so I was very new to being out on my own in the car, and I started watching my goddaughter part-time, so I didn't really have a choice when it snowed this year. And actually, one of my biggest fears about driving in the winter was hitting black ice because it had happened to my sister and she told me the story about it and it sounded terrifying. So I was driving down, the first hill was fine, and then I turned off of that street and I was getting close to where I needed to turn right, and there had been a lot of cars just kind of like abandoned in the right lane. I was like, okay, I'm getting close. I should get into the right lane. And then the person ahead of me started spinning out on black ice, and I came to a complete stop. And I put my four ways on, and I didn't know what to do. And they were like going back and forth. And I called my mom. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I was really scared that they were going to hit me. They didn't end up backing. They didn't end up backing into me, but they were just like going back and forth and getting closer to me. And then they eventually swung the front of their car out into the other lane, and I'm like, this is really scary. And my mom's like, it's okay, just slowly get into the other lane. And I started to, and the ice started way closer to me than I had realized, and I just barely started to move and I was on the ice and I started sliding. Luckily I wasn't going very fast, but I stopped again and I had a full-on panic attack, and my mom talked me through it, and then I just kind of let my car crawl across the ice. Like literally I gave it no gas at all, just let it slowly crawl. And then
Yep.
after a little bit, I tested the gas. It started to slide, so I took my foot off. And I did that every once in a while where I would test the gas. If it started to slide, I took my foot off and I just kept letting my car crawl at like literally a snail's pace. It took me forever to get through that tiny patch of road, but I made it through. And then, I mean, because of the panic attack, I started to get a headache, and there was a street light that I was stuck behind that was flickering, which made me feel really sick. And eventually, I was like, I am not safe to drive anymore. So I pulled off into a parking lot, and it also made me super anxious, but I had to leave my car behind overnight. But I came back the next morning and my car was fine. It was still there. It was okay. And I did manage to get home safe. I wasn't very far from a train, so I was able to get somebody to pick me up on the other end. But yeah, the whole situation was super scary, and it was something that I was afraid of for a very long time because like my mom and my sister had both gotten stuck for like 12 hours and people spun out all over the place. And after that I was like, I don't want to drive in the snow. I've never driven snow. And then I had to do it, and it actually turned out okay in the end. But yeah, it was really scary.
Yeah, that sounds really scary. And it sounds you were able to push yourself through like several parts of like there are multiple parts to that story. Like first driving in that weather, making it through that patch on the bridge, leaving your car overnight, and then like having the overnight and going back to get it, like all of that had to be majorly anxiety producing for you. And it was a series of events. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
you telling me this story, and I was telling someone else because I was just like, this girl is her own hero. Like, she made her way through this problem, like fear in hand. Like, you ran with that ball and like you made it to the end, right? Like, it's such a
Yeah.
powerful story, and I'm so glad that you were able to share that with us. Thank you. What's your advice for getting through something like that?
I don't know. I was too scared to put my foot on the gas. So I just kind of let my car go how it went. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like there wasn't really much other choice. Yeah, I guess yeah, just make sure you're taking care of yourself. Cause like if I hadn't left my car where I left it, like there's a good chance that I might have ended up getting into an accident before I got home because I was not okay to drive. So number one is definitely like when you're not feeling okay, making sure that you're taking care of yourself and thinking about what's the best way to do that because if you
Mhm.
push yourself too far, it's only going to get worse.
I feel like I've always kind of had a complicated relationship with anxiety because I was diagnosed with like two anxiety disorders before I was ever diagnosed with autism. And that was in grade 10. And that was when I got really anxious and I dropped out of the school I was in and then ended up trying to do online school for a month. And what really ended up being me kind of facing my fears was online school was not working for me, so I went to a different school. And that was a very stressful experience. But ultimately, I am very glad that I did it because even though joining a new school in the middle of grade 10 was not super ideal, and the rest of that year wasn't very ideal, but I like pushed through it. I pushed through it. I considered transferring again, but I was like, no, like I just have to stick with this. I chose this school and I'm glad that I stuck with it because I ended up having a really great time in grade 11 and ended up graduating from there and had a much time because I was able to stick through all of the stuff in grade 10 that I was dealing with. I met some really cool people in the beginning of grade 11 and kind of just like stuck with them. And I'm really glad that I waited that out and was able to just, yeah, wait for the right people to come along because I didn't have a lot of friends there. I didn't really know anyone there. And it was, yeah, a bit stressful at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, repeating myself. But also a lot of the anxiety that I had, like I was diagnosed with social anxiety, and a lot of the social anxiety kind of went away on its own when I got diagnosed with autism. So I was trying to think of like stories where I pushed through anxiety, and a lot of the stuff recently, like that would have made me so anxious, I never would have been able to do it. I did like I am pushing through anxiety still, like it's still kind of there, but it's just so much better than it would have been. I'm pushing through a lot less than I would have had to push through to get to the point that I am now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was thinking about how when I started university, there was a lot of people on campus. I wanted to meet a bunch of new people. I started giving a bunch of people, just people that I was passing in the hallways. I started giving people just random compliments, just like, oh my God, I really love your hair. I really love your outfit. Like I would do like 5 of those every day. And that's something I never would have dreamed of being able to do before. And I was still anxious when I was doing it. Some responses made me more anxious than other times. Usually I got a pretty positive response, and sometimes I got not a negative response, but maybe just like not a super enthusiastic response. And that was like a little bit hard for me, but I was able to actually push through that and keep going. And I ended up being pretty proud of myself, and seeing that I was able to do that was helpful for me in the future when I wanted to keep going with that because I knew that I could push through it and I could keep doing that.
So can I ask what inspired you to take that route of paying people compliments? Because that's a great strategy for making yourself feel more confident, complimenting other people? So, like, what gave you that idea?
I don't know. Honestly, I think I found myself, I mean, I always kind of had like really wanted to give compliments. I saw something that was really cool about a person and I really wanted to point that out. I also like, I would get a lot of random compliments myself, and I have probably since I started dyeing my hair fun colors when I was like 12. I would get like sometimes random compliments on my hair from just like a cashier or the person next to me or whatever. So it was something I was familiar with, and I wanted to, and I knew that that made me feel good. So I wanted to make other people feel good that same way. And I don't know, it started to just come really naturally to me. I think that it is pretty natural for me. Like I would also do this with my friends in high school, even before I kind of got over that anxiety. I would like be giving my one friend a compliment like every single day, and then I realized like, wait, maybe that's a bit too much. I don't know. I would get really excited about things. So I don't know. It just kind of happened, and I was like, oh, I'm actually going to maybe put some intention behind this and actually do it a bit more, because it's a good thing all around. I think it's a good thing for me, it's good for other people. Usually it makes other people happy and it makes me happy.
That's amazing. And like Kayla's story, you relied on your instincts to get you through that situation, and like it just made you feel better in the end because you trusted yourself that was the way that was one of the ways you wanted to handle that. That's so amazing. Really admirable. Thank you so much for sharing that. Do you have any additional thoughts to add to that, or do you guys have any thoughts on?
I think that for me, a big part of getting through my anxiety was just like the validation that I had a reason for feeling the way that I did, and that, you know, it wasn't just like getting the autism diagnosis and just realizing like, oh, it's actually not supposed to be this hard for everybody. And just finding people that had similar experiences helped me quite a bit, and helped me like just be who I already kind of was, but just much more outwardly. Because I was very anxious about fitting in before, but then once I realized I had a reason that I actually didn't, I was like, oh, so I just don't have to at all. I don't have to worry about that. Oh, okay. Cool.
What a liberating way to become yourself and just like exude authenticity. That's awesome. What about you, Parker? Do you have a story to share with us?
There was this like queer love fest that happened yesterday, that it went from like 5 o'clock to 9, from like 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I knew that would take me like half an hour to get there. And I ended up waking up at like 2 p.m. on that day. So I'm like, oh, I have plenty of time, because I wanted to have like a shower and stuff like that. But then I think I ended up staying in bed for like maybe actually until like 5 o'clock, and then I got out of bed. And so I didn't end up like leaving the house until like 6:30. But like years ago, it would have been like, oh, if I didn't get there at like 5, I might as well like not go. And like, but then I ended up going, and I felt good about myself, the fact that I did go.
Amazing. So what was the motivating factor that pushed you to go?
I have learned that it's better to even just go for like a little bit than to like not go at all. And also I've learned that if you're like planning on like going somewhere, that if you're able to be there for like an hour, that's a good amount of time. And that's like, if you're able to get there and be there for an hour, at least like you have like an hour left of the event. Like even if you end up being like, I want to leave before then, an hour is a good amount, a good chunk of time that you're like, okay, I went there and I did that thing.
Awesome. I love that.
That does it for this episode of The Pulse. Join us next time as we discuss some of the best first jobs. As always, if you have questions or ideas you'd like us to discuss, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, send an email to voa@pacificautismfamily.com. We look forward to more of your great questions. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.